So let's go ahead and take this custom knowledge AI chatbot that we developed in the previous lesson and actually tie it into a make automation. So I actually already went ahead and did this automation for us just to quickly show you guys, what you can do with this and the capabilities of make.com. So the first thing really is set up a make.com account and then set up an Airtable account. What I use Airtable for the most part is to test my automation. So maybe I want to test the theory of an automation that might work, but I don't know which business it applies for. I don't know which tools they're using. I'll use Airtable as kind of a way to be able to prompt my make automation or whatever automation I have and be able to test the output, test and make sure the automation would actually work prior to trying to integrate it with a bunch of third-party applications for a client. So the first things first, obviously we've queried this 6 times now. So we've asked about six different questions. So the first things first is you need to understand where this is. So we're using the API here. So sharing API, you're gonna wanna create a key, as well as check out their API documentation. This will act as more of an instruction guide on exactly how to set up the make automation, which looks just like this. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new conversation. So let me jump in here and just show you exactly what's supposed to take place. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a prompt. So we'll do the same prompt that we did in the previous lesson. So what are workflows in Bubble? And let's go ahead and ask that same question in here actually. What are workflows in Bubble? It should be pretty much the exact same response. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize this prompt inside of Airtable, and make.com is going to recognize that we updated this table and updated that prompt because this is the actual trigger. So this is what's going to trigger the chain of events that are going to take place here. And so if I actually just explain this flow, we start by that prompt that we put into Airtable. We're making a request and we're connecting to custom GPT through our API. And then we are fetching the response that it generates from the initial prompt that we send to it. And then we're going to display the output. So whatever they generate here in this chatbot, this is the outputted response. We are going to actually display this into Airtable. Now you may be asking, okay, like what are the use cases for this, which we will jump into here in a second. But as you can see, workflows in Bubble are the engine of your application. Okay, so basically we're looking for a very similar response to that when we run this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and run this once. So basically Airtable recognized the prompt, what are workflows in Bubble? We submitted that to custom GPT, and now they are generating a response. So they just finished generating it. And now this response, workflows in Bubble are the engine of your application. So literally identically the same thing that we typed in. And if we check our Airtable, we can see that response has been placed right there. And so obviously in a future lesson, actually in our upcoming program for AI automation agencies, we are going to break this down to a T and show you exactly how to use this. But I highly recommend, if I just jumped into this automation right now, you guys would be extremely confused. So I recommend spending some time playing around with some of these tools, looking at some of these demos, coming up with some ideas on different automations and things that you can do, right? But for example, instead of it being Airtable, maybe it's Gmail, right? So you could add a new trigger module and type in Gmail, integrate Gmail to watch email. So this is the trigger that's going to cause that chain of events to take place. So let's just say, for example, you get a support email and you want your custom, knowledge AI chatbot to respond to that email. So basically, when a new email comes in that's unread, then we will send it through this flow and we'll change and adjust the initial prompt to then respond to this email. And then we'll set up another trigger. So instead of Airtable, it'll be another Gmail trigger that will send an email, right? Or even create a draft. There are a ton of use cases for this, guys. You could even decide, hey, okay, I don't need to use, my custom knowledge chatbot. I could just use OpenAI, right? Way easier. You simply just integrate OpenAI, create a completion, You can use either one of these models, and you can do it for chats or completions, and simply just prompt it the way you would in ChatGPT to initiate the output instead of, using the API. But as you guys can see, if we actually look at the applications, there is no custom GPT in here, right? Now, how did we do this? So the cool thing about Make is they allow you to use an HTTP request. And this allows you to connect with third-party applications that aren't necessarily integrated with Make, but they have an API, and you can use those to push a request and fetch a response. So I'm trying to figure out how to say this in as simple terms as possible, but it won't take you too long to really understand how this automation really works. So let's just say, for example, we want to change the output because workflows in Bubble are the engine of your application. It's just kind of boring, right? So let's ask the same question, but let's change the response, right? Let's add like a little more tone to it. So this is the actual module where we're requesting, or we're submitting the prompt. So as you guys can see, we're submitting the prompt that we get from Airtable. So what are workflows in Bubble is a prompt, and that is a value. And what we want to do is obviously this is dynamic value, meaning that the user, based on their inputs, can actually change this value. But let's say we want to add a tone. Respond to this question with a funny tone. And there's a question mark there. And then we'll initiate that prompt. Very similar to how you would prompt something in ChatGPT. And we'll say, okay, now let's go ahead and run this again. So it'll fetch the same question, what are workflows in Bubble? It's creating and initializing a response that should have a funny tone. As funny as AI gets. And as you guys can see here, workflows in Bubble are like the directors in a movie. Okay. Workflows in Bubbles are like the directors in a movie. They call the shots and tell everyone, or in this case, every part of your app, what to do. Okay. So definitely generated, I guess, a more unique response. I wouldn't say that's funny, but it definitely has a little bit more personality to it. But as you guys can see, this is how you can actually take these custom knowledge chatbots, integrate them into an automation to do, unlimited things. It really just comes down to how creative you are, and whatever business or industry that you're tackling, if you can really find a problem that you can solve with these automations and with AI, this is the easiest way to be able to build those out and really facilitate and help with your clients' needs, as well as prove a solution for one business, and then take that case study to businesses that are very, very similar. And that's really how you get started with AI automation. So again, really important to understand how to build a custom knowledge chatbot, and then two, how to use these automation tools and really how to tie them all in together. And when it comes to tying them all in together, it really just comes down to how creative you are with coming up with solutions. So I just want to let you know, I know a lot of you guys are probably a little bit confused going through this demo, which is totally fine. But we are going to have a future AI automation program that will actually walk you guys through all of this step by step. Now, instead of using custom GPT, we'll probably be using BotPress and Stack AI, unless custom GPT is something you want me to go in more detail with, sure. But focus on really studying up on these tools, figuring out what you want to use, coming up with your game plan for your AI automation agency. And here in the next couple weeks, our program will be available to you guys, and it'll be free. So feel free to take full advantage of it. And I will see you guys later.